الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Our Allah Jalla Jalaluhu says about the perfection of prophetic mercy. We say, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ." And we have not sent you, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but as a mercy to the worlds. Our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the Prophet of mercy, sent by Allah as a mercy to all mankind, believers and non-believers. His mercy sheltered all humanity, men, women and children. Nabi alayhi salam was merciful to all creatures, including animals and birds. Allah Almighty describes Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's pity, kindness and mercy to all the creatures. As he says, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. There has certainly come to you a messenger from amongst yourselves. Grievous to him is what you suffer. He is concerned over you, and to the believers he is kind and merciful. Subhanallah. And one of the teachings of love of Prophet Muhammad is for us to love one another. The Prophet taught us that what we love for ourselves should also be what we love for others. And in the hadith, this golden rule has been said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you has iman or faith until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. When his people did not believe in him, Jibreel came to him alayhi salam and said, Allah heard the sayings and the accusations of your people, and he asked the angel of the mountains to obey any order from you against them. So the angel of the mountains called Nabi alayhi salam and said, ask for whatever you want and I would crush them with the surrounding mountains. And what did our Nabi alayhi salam say? بَلْ أَرْجُو أَن يُخْرِجَ اللَّهُ مِنْ أَصْلَابِهِمْ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ وَحْدَهُ لَا يُشْرِكُ بِهِ شَيْئًا. I'd rather hope that Allah will raise from among their descendants people who will worship Allah, the one, and will not ascribe partners to him. Subhanallah. Isn't that وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ? Similarly, in the aftermath of the Battle of Uhud, the Nabi alayhi salam was injured, and the Prophet did not become resentful or held grudges with his adversaries. Instead, he prayed that they would be forgiven. The Prophet's response was by making dua. رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِقَوْمِي فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. O Lord, O Rabb, forgive my people for they do not know what they do. He always saw the best in the others. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that through love and mercy, one can be drawn to the beauty of Islam. The early days of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu showed that he was a notable adversary of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that he challenged the prophetic message prior to becoming Muslim. Even the Prophet ﷺ prayed to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to soften his heart. In a hadith which is related, he made this dua, Allahumma a'izz al-Islam bi-ahabbi هذين الرجلين إليك بأبي جهل أو بعمر ibn al-Khattab. Oh Allah, strengthen Islam with one of the two men whom you love more, Abu Jahl or Umar ibn al-Khattab. And as you know, Sayyidina Umar eventually accepted Islam after he confronted his sister for being a believer. He was so angry and in a rage that his sister had to abandon the traditional belief and accepted Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, the tenderness of his sister, who did not challenge his confrontation, softened his heart. And when he finally read the Quran himself, when he took the Quran from her, and in that state, he received the ray of light from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and the rest is history. Subhanallah. His mercy was children. His mercy was orphans, widows, and the sick. Anas radiallahu anhu reported that Nabi alayhi salam said, I started the salah intending to lengthen it, and then I heard a child crying, so I made it shorter, knowing how emotional a child's mother will get. Subhanallah. The Prophet's mercy had no match when it came to showering love on the orphans. In pre-Islamic Arab world, there were no rules and regulations for orphans. It was our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who came and gave them their rights and treated them with utmost kindness. One such incident of unconditional love was when Nabi alayhi salam was on his way back home after offering the Eid Salah, and he saw a child, Zuhair bin Saghir, aloof and sad, while children were brimming with delight, laughing and playing in excitement. He bent down, alayhi salam, and he patted Zuhair on his shoulders and asked him why he was crying. The child did not even look up at who this person was, and he just said angrily, "Leave me alone." When the Prophet ﷺ asked for the second time to Zuhair, Zuhair bin Zubair replied that his father had been martyred and that his mother had married again, and his stepfather didn't want him to live with them anymore. And he lamented about his state, that he had no food and no place to live, and that he had no clothes, while the children around were playing with new clothes for him. Displaying his utmost mercy, subhanallah, our Prophet, having experienced orphanhood himself, comforted Zuhair and said to him, now Zuhair still is not looking up, you don't know who it is. And Nabi alayhi salam says to him, if I were to become your new father, and Aisha your new mother, and Fatima your new sister, would that make you happy? Zuhair, upon seeing that it was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, knew no bounds of joy and happily walked with him to their home, where the Prophet alayhi salam gave him food and clothes. Subhanallah. I wish I was Zuhair at that time. This was our Prophet's mercy and treatment towards orphans. Our Prophet ﷺ reiterated that the best homes amongst the abodes of Muslims are the ones in which orphans are treated kindly, and that the worst ones are those in which they are mistreated. Islam in general, and our Prophet in particular, laid great emphasis upon uplifting the lives of the orphans and the underprivileged. Our Prophet ﷺ said, blessed is the wealth of the Muslim from which one gives to the poor, the orphan, and the wayfarer. An example of his mercy with the children is that he used to stroke their heads and kiss them. Sayyidina Aisha said, Nabi alayhi salam kissed Sayyidina Hassan and Sayyidina Hussein. While Aqra ibn Hawis al-Tamimi was present, so Al-Aqra says, I have 10 grandchildren. I have 10 children, and I have never kissed any one of them. Subhanallah. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam looked at him and said, Man la yarham la yurham. He who does not have mercy will not be shown mercy. Allah protect us, ya Allah. Allah. Nabi alayhi salam never used to consider it to be unworthy from walking along with a widow or with a poor person, or fulfill the needs or their needs. He used to visit the sick, and he used to visit the weak and attend the funerals. He used to treat orphans well and charitably. He used to commend people to sponsor them and treat them with excellence. And he said, I am the supporter of an orphan are as close in paradise. And he waved his finger like this, his index finger with his middle, subhanAllah, the middle finger, and parting them. He also said that the best house in Muslim houses is the one with an orphan being well treated. When it comes to the animals, subhanAllah, the Prophet was always gentle with other creations. Even though we regard some animals as impure, Muslims are expected to respect and handle them with love and mercy. For instance, dealing with dogs, the Prophet ﷺ did not teach us to hate them. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ told us about the merits of feeding the dogs. It was reported in the hadith, a man felt very thirsty while he was on his way, and he comes across a well. And he went down the well, quenched his thirst, and he came out again. Meanwhile, he sees a dog panting and licking the mud because of excessive thirst. He said to himself, this dog is suffering from thirst, as I did. So he goes down the well again, he fills his shoe with water, and he gives it to the dog, subhanAllah. And Allah thanked him for that deed and forgave him. The people said, Ya Rasulullah, is there a reward for us in serving the animals? And he replied, alayhi salam, yes, there is a reward for serving any animate living beings, in other words. He used to commend having mercy on animals. He used to forbid his companions from hurting them, tiring them, overburdening them with heavy loads for long periods, or torturing them or pushing them beyond their limits, for that is a form of suffering. Subhanallah. Nabi alayhi salam said, he even said not even to kill a frog, because its croaking is tasbih. Subhanallah. Right? He also said not to harass animals by goading them to hurt or cause harm to each other. He warned against any human being causing a bird to feel panic about its offspring. Someone took 2 chicks off a bird, which came in panic searching for its chicks. Nabi alayhi salam said, who has distressed it by taking its chicks? Then he asked them to return the chicks. It was also reported, the Prophet ﷺ also prohibited the killing of birds for the sake of pleasure and not for a specific need. The Prophet said, anyone who would kill a bird, this bird will come on day of Yawm al-Qiyamah and say, Allah, this person killed me for pleasure and not for benefit. If it's for filling our stomachs and hunting, that's a different story. But sometimes we want to play games, for our nafs. Allah protect us, Ya Allah. It's also reported, when it comes to slaughtering, our Nabi alayhi salam encouraged us to show mercy and perfection in slaughtering. He saw a person preparing a lamb, laying it down, and then he started sharpening his knife. So Nabi alayhi salam said, do you want to kill it twice? Sharpen your knife before you lay it down. If you want to speak about animal rights, the West must go and sleep. They should go back 1400 years ago. Our Prophet ﷺ taught us about animal rights, human rights, orphan rights. Everything is right. Subhanallah. Right? He prohibited taking an animal or any living creature as a target for shooting. Nabi alayhi salam even encouraged us to plant trees as it would benefit creation. Right? You know what is happening nowadays? And the hadith says, no Muslim who plants a tree or sows seeds and then a bird or a person or an animal eats from it, except that it is regarded as sadaqah. It is charity. Right? Today, with the threats of climate change and global warming, there is a need for us to treat our environment with love and respect. We need to bring back the teachings of love and mercy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam into our lives in facing the challenges of today's postmodern society. We need to spread the values of love and mercy. The amplification of hate today needs to be challenged by radiating love and mercy to humanity. We need to build bridges with others and not walls. You know, a non-Muslim professor K.S. Ramakrishna Rao, and so many others have written. He writes about Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He says, the Prophet was a devoted husband, an affectionate father, and a sincere friend, a successful businessman, a far-sighted reformer, a brave warrior, a skillful general, an efficient administrator, an impartial judge, a great statesman, and more. In all these magnificent roles and in all these departments of human activities, he is equally a hero. Subhanallah. Right? Here, how outsiders is looking at our Nabi alayhi salam. Right? Nabi alayhi salam, Anas radiallahu anhu says, I have never met one was more merciful with children. His mercy with his family was shown in the way he used to assist them with the housework. Sayyidina Aisha said, what the Prophet did at home. And she answered, he was humble in the common service of his family. But when time for Salah came, he used to go and pray. He was not a chauvinistic person. A lot of times he used to serve himself. Waar is die kos? I work all day. What's happening? You the whole day at home. What's going on? Astaghfirullah. Be very careful. Be very careful. Right? Sayyidina Aisha said, the Prophet used to sew his clothes, mend his sandals, and do what other men do in their homes. Nabi alayhi salam instructed us to look after one another and love the poor and the needy. She reminded Sayyidina Aisha, Ya Aisha, أحبي المساكين وقربيهم فإن الله يقربهم يوم القيامة. Oh Aisha, love the poor and be near them, for he will bring you near him on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. May Allah grant us that. Our Nabi alayhi salam taught us the right conduct towards our parents, our neighbors, our relatives, and emphasized upon maintaining cordial relationships with them through love, through respect, through mercy, tolerance, and forgiveness. Yet, when we look within our families, what do we see? We see growing intolerance and the clash of egos, divisions and subdivisions, family feuds, status issues, class and caste differences. Forgiveness has become very difficult. Shunning prides and egos just for maintaining peace and jovial relations has become next to impossible. Allah protect us, Ya Allah. Did our Prophet ﷺ teach us to maintain family ties with the ones who especially sever us? Man qata'a rahim qata'a Allahu lah. The one who cuts himself off from family, Allah will cut himself off from that person. Right? Didn't he ask us to give to the ones who's depriving us? There's so many examples, we haven't got the time. And didn't he urge us to forgive the ones who wrong us? Then why are our families and the relations falling apart? Families are disintegrating. Friendship and kinship are becoming tougher to maintain. Shouldn't we as a Ummah ponder over what has become of us? Why have we failed trying to reach a state of pure and cordial relationship that our Prophet shared with his friend Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that he shared with his wives and their families, that he shared with his neighbors and his companions? Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam life teaches us about love for the community, irrespective of religion. Once a funeral passed by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So faqam, so he stood up. And then it was told to him, Faqina innahu Yahud. He said, he's a Yahud. And Nabi alayhi salam answered, Alaysat nafsan? Hasn't he got a ruh? Hasn't he got a soul? Be careful, right? Be careful. We need to reclaim and rekindle the narrative of love and mercy that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. We need to sow the seeds of communal harmony and keep watering them. You know, it reminds me of this beautiful incident of Mawlud, obviously. You know, everybody talks about Mawlud. You know, you don't need an authentic hadith to celebrate Mawlud, you need an authentic heart. One day a Badawi came to the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I've committed a grave sin, but I've heard Allah say in the Quran, and he recites these verses, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. And had they, when they were unjust to themselves, come to you, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu, and asked for forgiveness of Allah, and the Rasul, the Messenger, had also asked forgiveness for them, they would have found Allah oft returning, full of mercy. Subhanallah. The concept of wasila. That's what we are talking about here. So he says, so I am here to ask Allah for forgiveness, and ask you, Ya Rasulullah, to ask Allah as well for me to be forgiven. And then he follows this by reciting the lines of poetry. Ya khayra man dufinat bilqa'i a'zumuhu fataba min tibihinna alqa'u wal akamu nafsi al-fida'u liqabrin anta sakinuhu فيه العفاف وفيه الجود والكرم. Oh, best of those who have been buried in the deep earth, and from whose fragrance the depth and the height have become so sweet. May I be the ransom for a grave which thou inhabit, subhanallah, and in which are found purity, bounty, and munificence, subhanallah. Al-Utbi, radiallahu anhu, was watching this thing taking place. So after this Badawi recites this poetry, he cries incessantly and then he walks away. Now Al-Utbi is watching this whole tamasha, as we call it, right? And after that, right, after the Badawin left, Al-Utbi falls asleep and he sees the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his dream, and the Nabi alayhi salam orders him, go and catch up with the Badawi or the Bedouin and give him glad tidings, Allah has forgiven you. Subhanallah. The concept of wasila we're talking about here. You know, if you speak about wasila, keep on reciting the dua after the adhan. That is wasila. Right? Here's a hadith. Man qala hin yasma'u nida. And the one, when you hear the adhan, and you recite Allahumma rabba hadhihi ad-da'wati at-tamma was-salati al-qa'imah ati Muhammadan wasilata wal-fadila wab'ath maqaman mahmudan lilladhi wa'adta. I will translate it to you. Whoever says after hearing the call of the adhan, O Allah, Lord of this perfect call and established prayer, give Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the means of approach and favor, and raise him to the praiseworthy status which you promised for him. Then Nabi alayhi salam says, Hallat lahu shafa'ati yawm al-qiyamah. Subhanallah. Then my intercession will be allowed for him on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Look at that. May Allah grant us His intercession on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Because that's all we will depend on Him, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Allah. Thank you again for listening. Few notices. Assalamu alaikum. Can you please make dua for our brother Mikael Ali? It's his birthday today and he will be married early next year. Inna lillahi. MashaAllah. May Allah grant him all the goodness, inshallah, for his birthday, and we look forward to giving him, inshallah, granting all goodness for his married life when it happens next year. Ameen. Also, Sayyid Qasim Ali has passed away on Monday, 44 years old, we make dua, Allah grant him Jannah, Ya Allah. Companionship of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all our dear departed ones, oh Allah, grant him all the goodness, Ya Allah, and sabr to the families. Thank you so much.